Okay, so you guys are doing 3.4 today on your own. So I'm going to go through this section in a little bit more detail. So in algebra, letters are used to represent unknown numbers. So these unknown numbers can take on any number. So for example, x could be 10 or x could be 10.1. Or x could be any really number. We don't know what that is, and so that's called a variable. The letter is called a variable. There's also a number in front of this letter. This also has a unique name. This is called a coefficient. So if you have numbers in front of your variables, they're called coefficients. A term is an expression formed by the product of numbers and or variables. The degree of a term is the sum of all of the exponents on all of the variables on that term. So basically what they're saying here is when you have things that are separated by pluses or minuses, each one of these is a term. So for example, 3xy squared plus 7x cubed minus 12y to the fourth. This one has 1, 2, 3 terms. Enough about that. Let's go on to the degree. So basically this one here has a degree of 2. I'm looking at the exponent and I see 2. For this one here, I look at the exponent and I see a 4. So the degree of this one is 4. Now, remember, for the degree of my term, if I have more than one variable, I have to add up the exponents on those variables. So I look at the a, I don't see an exponent. That means the exponent is 1. My degree for this term is going to be 1 plus 3, or it's going to be 4. The degree on this term over here is 0 because I don't have a variable. So, interestingly enough, a term with no variable is called a constant. A polynomial is an algebraic expression with one or more terms. It's classified by the number of terms it has. So something with one term is called a monomial because it has one term. Something like this, which has 2 terms, is called a binomial. And it's called a binomial because it has 2 terms. Something like this with 3 terms is called a trinomial because it has 3 terms. And there should be one more. It looks like somehow it got cut off, but let me give you an example of something like this. Something with more than 4 terms, or rather, I should say 4 or more terms, is called a polynomial. Something with 4 or more terms. Okay, let's keep going. Ooh, this section, so you're missing this in your notes, but just be sure to write that down somewhere. I should say that before we go on. So you can pause the video back there and you can make sure you get that down. So let's have a look at this. The degree of the polynomial is equal to the degrees of the highest degree term in that polynomial. So the degree of a polynomial is equal to the degree of the highest term, or the highest degree, in that polynomial. I know that sounds like a mouthful. That's kind of confusing. But if we do a couple of examples right here, I think it'll make a lot of sense. So what's the degree on this x term? Well, it's a 1. What's the degree on this 3? Well, it's 0. So the highest degree term I have here is 1. So my degree is 1 for this binomial. Let's look at this trinomial over here. Degree 0, degree 1, degree 2. So overall, my degree for this trinomial is 2. I take the highest one. Let's look at this polynomial over here. What's the degree for this one? It's going to be 3. The degree of this term is going to be 2. The degree of this term is going to be 9. And the degree of this term is 7. So the overall degree for this polynomial, the degree of this polynomial is 9. I take the highest degree. Excuse me. Let's keep going. So complete the chart below. They want to know how many terms there are for each of these and the name of the polynomial. So this first one has, it looks like one term. And anything with one term is called a monomial. This has 2 terms. And something with 2 terms, remember, is called a binomial. This one here has 3 terms. And you'll remember that something with 3 terms is called a trinomial. And this last one has 4 terms. And something with 4 or more terms was called a polynomial. All right. So I think I'm going to stop the video here. This will be part 1. And then in part 2, we'll wrap up the notes.